So Call of Duty Modern Warfare, this is a game that's garnered a lot of positive PR up until a few days ago, and that's because of two issues. One, there is this mode, Spec Ops Survival Mode, that is exclusive to PlayStation 4 for a whole year. And in the case of Call of Duty, this being an annualized franchise, a whole year is basically Modern Warfare's entire lifespan. And the second problem concerns pay-to-win loot boxes, which is a topic that a leaker who's made accurate leaks in the past about Modern Warfare covered on Twitter. They talked about how Activision has every intention to implement weapons within loot boxes. That makes it pay to win. That's a big no-no. So since then, there's been a lot of backlash, and recently developers have been forced to respond to assuage this whole situation, but unfortunately, they don't seem to be doing a good job. So this post right here, 0 upvotes, or there is a couple upvotes, but so many people downvoted this post that the counter reads 0, and you can see right here 25% upvoted, which is pretty bad. So I'd like to go through this statement and then another one that another developer posted. And I'd like to just share my thoughts on what's going on here and why these responses aren't necessarily ideal. So let's start with this one. This reads, clarifying Modern Warfare Special Ops mode coming to all platforms. Lots of discussion and reactions to yesterday's news about Special Ops. We know you have questions and we want to clarify. To be clear, our all-new Special Ops mode will be releasing on all platforms on October 25th. We're looking forward to revealing Special Ops on October 8th. When we launch on October 25th, everyone on all platforms will be getting Modern Warfare, which includes campaign, the all-new Special Ops mode, and the entirety of multiplayer, which is a massive experience we've worked to create. Special Ops Survival is an additional classic mode that will be available on PS4. We have made many changes this year with the goal to make the entire experience better for all of the Call of Duty community, including no season pass, cross-play across all platforms, and that all post-release maps and modes will be coming to all platforms at the same time. We understand that some may be disappointed to not be able to play classic Special Ops Survival day one. We hear you. Please know that we're working hard to make sure this is the best Call of Duty we've ever made and the best experience possible for fans. So what should be a statement sort of sympathizing with fans and giving them some assurances, instead it's this giant PR statement where they're like, this is the game, it's got this mode and that's all well and good, but it isn't addressing the issue at hand, which is a mode being locked to exclusivity for a whole year for a Call of Duty game's entire lifespan. And furthermore, this post actually downplays the issue a bit by talking about how they understand people might be disappointed they won't be able to play classic Special Ops Survival day one. But the issue is that this is a year one thing we're talking about here. People won't be able to play Special Ops Survival outside of PS4 year one. That's a lot of time to have content locked to one platform. It is woefully anti-consumer, and that is something that they are trying to not bring up. The fact that it is an entire game's lifespan, an entire Call of Duty game's lifespan. And then this user sort of highlights what I said, stating day one isn't the issue, a week isn't the issue, even a month exclusivity like map packs back then aren't the issue. The issue is COD is a yearly release and a decent portion of the player base moves on to the next COD after a year. Getting this mode when the next COD comes out is useless. I know you're just doing PR, so my disgust and anger isn't directed towards you because you have the unfortunate job of quelling outrage. So that's where we're currently at with this particular statement. And then here's another one published by this Infinity Ward developer. And this statement went over a little better because this post essentially asks people to sympathize with the fact that there are people working behind Infinity Ward, that these aren't just mindless drones, and that they are doing their best to make the best game possible given the situation that they're in, which is of course that Activision executives have certain mandates. And so on that front, this post reads as follows. A developer's POV. Hey gang, take a second and think about who on the production side comes to this sub and reads through the comments. Infinity Ward developers. We are a mixed bag of nerds, jocks, and everything in between. It's amazing, but we all get along and come together every day to build something that we believe in. We have dedicated our careers to being the best at what we do and to make the best possible game we can make. That's corny, but at the same time, this is a job, and if you work at a job and aren't successful, then eventually there is no job. Almost all of us have worked in the industry for long enough to know that if if we don't make a good game, then no one will play it. It's pretty much all we think about, and for most of us, we treat every game like it is our last, so we put everything we have into it. We never hold back. Public forums like this sub are part of our process. It's where we come to gather exterior thoughts and feedback on what we are crafting. We're about 4 weeks away from launch, but the game will continue to live beyond that date. This sub will be a way for us to keep getting an outside hands-on perspective from everyone that plays the game. Everyone benefits from this. Player experiences get better and better, and we get to keep making games. Well, in the case of Black Ops 4, actually, the player experience got worse and worse over time because the loot boxes and the microtransactions got worse and worse. So that aspect, I'd say, is more of a wait and see. The post continued. So yes, the current drama, you're all being heard. All of it. I don't know why, but on my daily scans of the sub, where I'm looking for useful feedback, I even read the ultra-dark toxic comments that tell me how incompetent and stupid I must be, and how I should go away somewhere where I can't harm people with my bad ideas and artwork. We all have a pretty thick skin here, but yeah, I can kind of get to you. Believe me, we keep it professional, but of course, people that pass by my office from time to time can hear me through the walls. It's disappointing, but we move on with our day. I understand that there are people here that have things going on in their lives, or they are upset about something to do with the game, and they need to get the poison out and feel like they're being listened to. You are, and yeah, go for it, but keep it clean and maybe even a little creative. Get it out of your system, but remember there's a team of human beings here at Infinity Ward, and we have crappy days just like you. Our interest is entirely in the game itself. There are some announcements that have come up this week that are official, and some that are rumors. My ask of all of you is to focus on information that is actually fact, and not get thrown off by ill-informed people that want to make a name for themselves by spreading half-baked inflammatory rumors. Let's work real problems together and not fairy tales of boogeymen. That's all I got. Hope you guys have a good day. We are excited about the game here at Infinity Ward. Can't wait for launch day. See you around the sub, Joel. So on one hand, I do appreciate that he's sort of talking more honestly. This doesn't read like a PR statement. This reads like a guy who's just trying to get his thoughts out and talking about how developers really do want to make this the best game possible. They're not going out of their way to sabotage the game. But on the other hand, this developer has to understand that we have been through this whole cycle so many times already that it's hard not to make assumptions before a Call of Duty game comes out, especially after Black Ops 4. It's hard not to assume the worst when Call of Duty entries after entries have each in their own way sort of implemented these egregious monetization systems, and then considering the leaker who talked about the loot boxes, considering he's made accurate leaks in the past, and given Activision's history, it's hard not to lean more towards believing that Activision has every intention to mar this game with monetization because they're only focused on investors and meeting financial guidelines. Now, I don't know if that's exactly what he's talking about here. He says here to not become too invested in the rumors, to wait until all the information is made available, and I'm not sure if the rumors he's talking about has to do with the loot boxes, the pay-to-win loot boxes, the weapons being in the loot boxes, or this other rumor about the netcode somehow being worse in Modern Warfare, which is another thing that came up more recently. And see, the lack of clarity in this post is frustrating. Like, what rumors are you talking about? What rumors shouldn't we listen to? And the fact that he doesn't clarify it specifically about pay-to-win loot boxes might have to do with Activision not letting him, but understand that until we get official confirmation, I don't think it's fair to ask of consumers to not expect the worst, given previous endeavors with Call of Duty, given previous monetization systems implemented in Call of Duty, particularly Black Ops 4, and the way that game sort of seemed innocent starting out, but then Activision slowly introduced more and more egregious monetization after the reviews and people's impressions came out. And this user here expressed similar sentiments. They said, I appreciate the gesture and you and Infinity Ward immensely. You can tell the game has a lot of hard work going into it. We just want clear answers on the microtransaction system, specifically because Black Ops 4's microtransaction system existed purely to wring the consumer out of money, and we'd hate to see that happen to Modern Warfare. It isn't your choice though, and only Activision's, but a little clarity would be nice. So after these two statements, this one and this one released, people have taken to Reddit to express all kinds of opinions about the game, about their hopes, and about their worries. This user expressed their disdain towards the lack of transparency throughout the marketing of this game. The headline reads, "Dear Infinity Ward, you have said countless times you all are dedicated to being very transparent with issues and responsive to community feedback. Now is the time to make a statement towards microtransactions." Again, Activision might not be letting them talk about all that stuff, but you cannot promise transparency and then not deliver on that. This is a user who talks about how DLC guns and loot boxes are unacceptable, and 4,000 upvotes, 98% approval rate, a lot of people agreeing with this sentiment. This user, "I think we need to be more pissed off about guns being hidden in loot boxes instead of not having a mode most of you won't play." So he's saying the Spec Ops survival mode, that's an issue, but the gun stuff, the guns and loot boxes stuff is far worse and far more nefarious, has wider implications. This user right here, "Activision would proudly announce if weapons aren't in microtransactions." That's an interesting point. If Activision really wanted to quench fears and wanted to get some good PR, why not announce right here, right now, that weapons will not be ever in loot boxes? Why not just declare that if they have no intentions of enacting that type of system? Food for thought. Then we have this user who responded to another developer on Twitter saying that, hey, the Spec Ops survival mode is just 1% of the game. It's really not that big of a deal. But a lot of people noted that Spec Ops, which is the mode that survival mode is housed in, that does not have 99 other modes. It's misleading to say that survival mode is just 1%. It's probably closer to like 10, 15% of the whole package, and that's a good chunk of content that Xbox and PC players won't be able to play for a whole freaking year. And so on that front, this user said, "Just so everyone's clear, if survival mode was only 1% or a crap mode, Sony wouldn't have paid to have it all to themselves for a year. Indeed, if this 1%, content didn't have any value whatsoever, Sony wouldn't have secured this kind of deal. Activision wouldn't have engaged in this kind of deal." This next user talks about how proud he is of the community, that they're calling out all this bullshit, which, I have to concur with. I'm glad to see people voicing their opinions, and obviously please do so respectfully in a manner that's constructive, but don't be afraid to be critical about this stuff, because if you let this slide, you never know where the boundaries can be pushed next time. And then finally, this user proposed that if you're going to take a big chunk of content out of a game on other platforms, then those versions of the game should be sold at a cheaper price. So the PS4 version, since that is the complete package, that should be the $60, while Xbox and PC players, they should maybe get like a $10 discount, given that they're not really getting a complete package for a whole year. So yeah, this statement right here, utter garbage. Just, it feels like corporate PR that downplays the exclusivity by saying day one instead of year one, which is the more accurate way to put it. This post, on the other hand, this feels like it's coming from the heart, and like they're really just trying to make people understand where developers are coming from. And it's always good to have multiple perspectives on issues, so I'm glad that Joel shared this. Now, on the other hand, I hope Joel understands that the reason it's so difficult to, quote, focus on information that is actually fact is because the facts are never revealed up until it's too late. After people have bought the game, after the reviews have come out, after people have really become attached to the game. It's only after all of that has happened that Activision will introduce all of these egregious elements like the pay-to-win loot boxes that Black Ops 4 got in the latter half of its lifespan. So stuff like that makes it hard to just focus on what we know now. We have to be forward-thinking, because you guys, or not you guys the developers, you guys the publishers, you the publishers have done this to us. You have made us defensive. You the publishers have fostered an environment in which we have to assume the worst, because otherwise we might get screwed. So that's where we're coming from as consumers, and I hope that is something Joel can understand. In the end, I really hope that everything works out, that Modern Warfare isn't just completely obliterated, the gameplay loop of that game isn't obliterated by a monetization system that just grinds the rewards and progression to a halt. But realistically speaking, let's be honest, as long as Activision's focus continues to be monetization, you never know, this game will always be at risk. Even if Modern Warfare launches pristinely, you never know how that could degrade over time, and that's the unfortunate thing. The lack of trust was fueled because of publishers' greedy antics. That's something that everyone, the developers, need to understand when they feel frustrated at our frustration. Understand our frustration as well, and then we can maybe have a proper conversation and reciprocate with one another. So that's how I feel anyway. Let me know in the comments below what your take is on the responses provided here by the developers, by Infinity Ward, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.